Hello, peoples. A few days ago, I had quite the interesting double feature, and that was Saturday Night and The Apprentice. Today, I want to talk about both of those movies. They are quite different, but I also noticed that they have the same aesthetic. The Apprentice, I don't know if it was shot on film, at least has a film filter throughout the entire movie. Saturday Night was filmed on 16mm film. They both had the same type of look, but yet the movies could not be more different. I'm going to talk about the movies in the order that I saw them. First, I saw Saturday Night. If you are a Saturday Night fan, you're going to love this. I'm not a Saturday Night fan. I had a really good time, but I had a completely different experience watching this movie. I had the experience of the side of me that wants to be a filmmaker just having anxiety the entire time, but also having fun. You know, when you see everything go wrong on any kind of set and you're me, you just feel that pain. It taught me that I could never do a show like that. I could never, I don't have the guts for that. I don't have it in me because that was stressful. They really put you there. It is really immersive in the way that they chose to tell the story 90 minutes before, showtime. All that high tense energy of something with this much pressure is there and you feel it with its filmmaking, the performances. Gabriel LaBelle is fantastic in this movie. I'm not familiar with the characters that they're supposed to be playing. I know a lot of people who see this movie are, but to me, they were just a person in the movie. I thought that everybody was good, but I wasn't like connecting to all the inside jokes that people were laughing at. There's jokes sometimes where people will start laughing. I was like, I have no clue what that is. But to me, about 70% of the jokes landed, and I still had a fun time with the movie. But I was also really impressed with Jason Reitman's strong direction here. It's shot on 16mm film, but there's a lot of long takes. There's a lot of choices made behind the camera that really just amplify this tense feeling. The score is also really good in this movie. My biggest issue with the movie is that although, yes, this 90-minute type of structure, right, the movie takes place in real time, even though it really doesn't when you look at the runtime of the movie. But when you look at it, it's when you have this idea, there's really not a lot of room to learn that much about the characters, and there's really not a lot of room to really care that much besides the fact that you just want to see them get the show done. Gabriel LaBelle brings a lot of, charisma to the role, and, seeing him go from the Fablemans to this kind of has that similar energy of, filmmaker mode. That worked, and honestly, maybe this is like a soul sequel to the Fablemans. Maybe that's where you can kind of like emotionally make that bridge, but that's to me is someone who's seen the Fablemans. Not everybody who sees Saturday Night will have seen the Fablemans or even know Saturday Night Live that well. I can't necessarily say, oh, all is forgiven just because it's Gabriel LaBelle, but at the same time, he is really fantastic in the role, and so is everybody else in this movie. They don't really get a chance to shine like LaBelle does because he's the main character and he's the one who's really struggling throughout the movie. You have Daniel O'Brien, he's funny in this movie. Cooper Hoffman, he's fantastic in this movie. All the performances are really good. They have a really hysterical cameo by J.K. Simmons, who I didn't even know was in the movie. A lot of surprised people just showed up. I was like, I didn't know they were in this. The best example I can think of is last year's movie, No Hard Feelings. Jennifer Lawrence and the male lead of that movie, I don't remember his name, but he was in this movie and he just showed up and I was like, oh, okay, he's in here too. And he actually had some really funny bits. Everybody in this movie was really funny. They got the vibe right. The energy was really tense. It was nightmare fuel for me, but I enjoyed the direction, the style that they were going for, even though there wasn't that much for me to latch onto. I'm going to give a Saturday Night an 8 out of 10. Next, I'm going to talk about The Apprentice, and going from that high energy movie to this, The Apprentice is a movie I was looking forward to, but also I'm afraid to talk about with literally anybody, so I'm going to spout my thoughts here. If I get political, I am sorry. The Apprentice is really basically this character study on how Donald Trump became the person who he is now. And the person who he is now is not a very fun thing to watch or be around for 2 hours. And so that's what makes this movie a little bit polarizing to watch, because he's your lead. There's not a lot of redeeming qualities there. You have some at the beginning, but the more you get into this movie, the more he adapts this Roy Cohen mindset, the more unbearable he becomes. And you see it with the people around him, and you see it in Sebastian Stan's fantastic performance, by the way. And I think it'll be a little underlooked on how fantastic Sebastian Stan's performance is because of how godly annoying he is in the last half, but his acting is just really fantastic. The more you think about what he did besides the fact of how annoying he was, it's really something that I hope gets an Oscar nomination, but I doubt it in all honesty. Jeremy Strong, though, is fantastic, and I would say maybe he's even a little bit better than Sebastian Stan, because he is who he is throughout the entire movie. You see him go through a huge range of emotion throughout, and you just, he's a horrible person. It's what good acting is. Jeremy Strong makes you feel bad for somebody who's completely unredeemable. I don't know if Sebastian Stan completely did that. I think it takes a lot to do that with somebody like Donald Trump. I think it's also the material that they had to work with. I think Jeremy Strong was able to get a lot more out of the character to make you empathize with him than what Sebastian Stan was able to do. This movie at one point had my jaw dropping because I knew the movie at one point was really trying to tell this story accurately. There's because of the way that the first half of this movie plays out, it's not this movie, even though it goes, it exposes Trump on a lot of his BS. You can tell it restrained itself and really tried to tell and paint the most accurate picture possible. And so to see some parts in this third act go the way that it did, I was just honestly taken aback, and it was mighty effective. One scene, I even hate to call this scene a spoiler because it's just gross to call a scene like this a spoiler. But if you want to see the movie and experience it for the first time, that's why I'm not saying it. But there's this one scene towards the end, I just thought it was absolutely gross. When I researched it afterwards, this movie makes you research stuff, and it just really makes me disgusted at the fact that this man can be elected again, and it's a close call. What I loved about this movie, though, is that Trump has this such a clear, focused mindset. He can tell you anything and the most blatant lie in the world, and you can almost believe it. He's the most convincing guy in the world. He's the world's best salesman. But to see the way that he adapted this ideology and the way that he thinks, it really just is an eye-opener. Obviously, no Trump person's gonna watch this movie and be like, oh my god, my life has changed. This movie was not gonna sway any voters. I think people who naturally don't like Trump can watch this movie and really just see through his silliness a little bit more than what we did before. And I think that's props to strong research, Stan's fantastic performance, and the creatives involved. I'm happy this movie exists, even though I don't know if I ever want to watch it again. So I'm gonna give The Apprentice 7.8 out of 10, with a slight edge to Saturday Night between these two. But overall, I thought they were both good movies. I thought they were both strong. I was comment down below what you guys thought of Saturday Night or The Apprentice if you checked out either one. I am sorry if I upset you with my Apprentice review. It's just there was no way for me to properly get out my thoughts of this movie without getting political, because it's hard to. Look at the content of the movie. You have to in order for the review to make sense. Like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.